Hey guys, this is an educational video about macaws and military macaws specifically, although a lot of this information, pretty much all of it, applies to all parrot species and even smaller birds like parakeets or cockatiels. This is Vero. He is my military macaw. He is a good boy most of the time. Macaws are very challenging pets. In general, I do not recommend them, but I had the capability to take care of him, and so I have. Quick story of how I got him is that he is a rescue. He had been found in a box on the side of the road, and a rescue in Wisconsin took him in near where I was living last year. And a friend of mine had him for about 18 months, had adopted him, but then moved to a place where he could no longer keep him and asked if I could take him, and so here we are. Vero is a military macaw, and military macaws are called military macaws because of their coloring. So they are kind of a military green, and some of the colors that they've got, like the blue on his tail and the yellow and the red on his beak, is kind of representative, kind of looks like the colors of Army generals. And so that's why they're called military macaws. They have never been used by the military, to my knowledge, for any sort of work. So, these guys are native to Mexico and South America. They're kind of near the equator, and so they live in rainforests and things. They spend their days looking for food. They spend about 60 to 70% of their time looking for food, flying around. They fly an average of 15 miles every day in the wild, looking for different fruits and seeds and nuts. They also go and find things called clay licks, which are basically big piles of mounds of clay, of dirt, basically, but it's clay dirt. And we are not 100% sure of the cause of this, but the overarching theory is that that is because it is a salt source for them, and because they can get lots of minerals that help detoxify anything that might be in their system that might not be good for them. And so that has been an evolutionary advantage for them to do so. They are highly social creatures. They live in flocks. I know. So he really likes interacting with me, obviously. He is very social. He is my only bird. But that is okay with, certain precautions and attention and things like that. So yeah. So their diet in captivity is very different than their diet in the wild, which is done for many reasons. So most people think that, you feed birds seeds because they eat a lot of seeds in the wild. But seeds are actually not very good for them, particularly in captivity. That is because in the wild, they probably eat hundreds of different seed species. And seeds are very high fat. They have a high fat content for a lot of energy. They're kind of like the Snickers bar that you eat, which they need if they're going to fly for 15 miles a day. But birds in captivity, even the ones that do fly in captivity, do not fly for 15 miles. Pretty much no one can provide that much stimulation for their birds. So they do not need as much fat, and they are likely to get overweight. Additionally, since there are hundreds of species of seeds that they get in the wild, there's a lot more variety to those seeds than there is in the few seed species that may be available in commercial diets. So what do you feed instead? We feed a lot of vegetables and fruits, I know, and sometimes grains and beans and things. There are actually really good parrot pellets, are you going to dance? That are sold that have everything they need nutritionally, kind of like you would for a rabbit or a dog or a cat. It's kind of a kibble, but don't go and feed them dog food, because dog food is full of meats and things, and parrots can't really digest meat well. They are not meant to eat meat. So there are parrot-specific diets that are not seeds, that are pellets. But what I also do is that is his dinner. That pellet is his dinner. And then in the mornings, I feed him a vegetable mix that I make in bulk, 3 to 4 months, and I freeze. And then he gets I put them into ice cube trays, and he gets 3 ice cubes worth of food every morning. They're little ice cubes. And that mix, I know, is made up of soaked beans and lots of greens like kale and spinach and broccoli and bean sprouts. And then it also has orange things like butternut squash and pumpkin and peppers and carrots. So I put a good variety of things in there. And then that is his breakfast. And then seeds can be a tiny part of the diet, but it's recommended that you only use them for training. So these guys are super smart. They have the intelligence of a 3 to 5-year-old human child. Right, buddy? So they love to train. They love to use their brains to work out little puzzles. Part of the way that I entertain him is that since they spend 60 to 70% of their time foraging, looking for food in the wild, what I do is I hide little pieces of his pellets all over his toys, in little coconut shells, on different platforms, all sorts of things. So then it takes him longer to find his food, and birds actually prefer to go looking for their food. So if they're offered just a bowl with all their food in it, or a bunch of different foraging toys, so things that you can stick the food in and they have to kind of work out a little puzzle, or they have to work a little bit harder to get at it, then they actually prefer to go look for their food because it's like a game to them. So they don't play video games, obviously, but they love to play let's find my food games type thing. And so he has a lot of fun with that. And a way you can kind of, if your bird has never foraged before, you don't want to just take them and hide all their food really well and then them be very confused, because you still want them to be able to eat, obviously. You're not trying to starve them. So the way I kind of started that process for him is I started by just putting little balls of paper in his food bowl with his food. And so he has to kind of knock the food balls out of the way. And then I'd put bigger ones so he couldn't see the food. But he still knows that that's his food bowl, and so he'd pull that out and throw it on the ground and then eat his food. Then what you progress to is I can hide it in the little balls of paper. And then it progresses. You can make it more and more difficult for them, and it takes them longer, and it keeps them entertained more, which is less time he might spend screaming or annoying the dog or trying to eat my walls or something like that, which he's actually very good and not very destructive. I am very lucky, but yeah, that is life with a bird. Is they are destructive. If they are destroying things, they are happy. Their toys don't last very long because if they like their toys, they destroy them. Sometimes what some people do is they even go to a home improvement store like Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards, and they buy just big 2x4s, big long pieces of wood, and put them in the cage, and the bird just eats them. Basically, they don't swallow the wood, but they tear it apart, and you have all sorts of wood shavings all over the floor. That's great fun for them. They love it. He also really loves music. He likes to dance a lot. He's been kind of dancing a little bit, which has been fun. I know. He particularly likes to dance and sing in the shower. He gets a shower pretty much every day. Like I said before, they live in the rainforest. I know, buddy. And so they naturally get kind of showers every day. They do make their own oils, kind of like our hair makes oils, which is why we need to shower, but they don't need shampoo or anything. They are able to just groom themselves, which for birds, grooming is called preening. I know. And so he does that every day anyways, but a shower still helps him get rid of all of the feather dandruff. So birds get dandruff too, it's just from their feathers instead. I know. No, you can't climb on my computer. I'm sorry. You're a good boy, though. So speaking of preening, these birds are very social. And if you've ever seen videos of like monkeys picking things off of each other and grooming each other, birds do kind of the same thing, although there aren't any bugs on your birds, hopefully. I know. So birds will preen each other all the time as a... Do you want to climb up? You can. Birds will preen each other all the time as a friendship thing, but they only groom the parts of their friends that they cannot reach themselves. So the only part that a bird cannot groom on himself or preen on himself is his head, his or her head and neck, because obviously their beak can't reach around, can it? You can't reach your head and neck. So anybody in the flock that they are friends with can preen their head and neck. So that is the only place that I will pet Vero, because I am his friend. They will let their mate groom the rest of their body, but I, or any human, is not their mate, and that can cause lots of problems if you do signal to them that you are their mate by preening their... I know, now he's preening me. He is, that is what he's doing here. Thank you, buddy. I did shower today, but, you know, it's okay. So you do not want to signal to your bird that you are their mate, because that is how issues come about where birds only like one or two people, because they are the people that have signaled to them that they are a mate, and then they get very protective and defensive over their mate. Even though you are a human, they will still treat you as such because that's the body language you're giving them. And so it's really tempting to want to pet your bird all over just like you would on a dog or a cat or a small mammal like a hamster or guinea pig. But you really don't want to do that because it's bad for their mental health. I know, buddy. I know. He's very distracting, but that's okay. So the only place I will ever pet Vero is on his head and neck. The exception would be if he's at a vet visit or something, or if I was concerned about something under a feather. He would probably let me lift up his wing and look at him, but that's an exception and it doesn't happen very often. Some more daily care things is that you want to weigh your birds a lot. I weigh him almost every day because weight loss is one of the biggest indicators of whether or not they are healthy. If they are starting to lose weight, that might mean that they're sick or something's going on, because birds hide the fact that they're sick very, very well. They often don't show that they're sick until they are very, very sick, because if in the wild one bird looked very sick, then that's an easy target for a predator to come and try to eat them. And so he wouldn't want to show that he's sick, even though he's not in the wild anymore, because, I know, because he naturally wouldn't want to get eaten, and these guys have not been bred in captivity for all that many generations like dogs have been. So, what are you doing? I know. So, I have a shower video that I'm making as well, so I'll have a separate one there. But that's Vero. I know, he's saying hello. He does talk, but he doesn't like to talk in front of cameras or in front of people. He's a little shy in front of that. I don't really know. He talks a lot, but not for other people or for cameras, apparently. I know, you're dancing. Oh, another important note that's kind of fun fact, these guys, their beaks are super strong. So his beak is almost as strong as a lion's mouth in terms of the amount of pressure he can exert over pounds per square inch. And so he could easily break a finger or something like that. So you have to be able to read body language very well. He has been happy and bouncing all around this entire video. He wants to be interacting with me. But the more you watch birds, the more you get used to knowing whether or not they want to be interacting or not. Right, buddy? I know. I trust him a lot. We spend a lot of time together, which is why he's on my shoulder right now. I do not recommend having any bird on your shoulder that you don't know well, because what if they don't want to come down, etc. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am happy to answer any other questions that anybody has. I made this video initially for Mrs. Davidson at Lupine Montessori School, but I am happy to share this with anyone else as well. I will probably be putting it on YouTube if anybody wants to use it. I know, buddy. Say goodbye. Bye-bye. Not gonna happen, just a little dance move. Alright.